Hello, you have tuned into the In-Betweeners Checkup. My name is Mate Glamazina and I am joined today by Benedict, and I've just forgotten your last name, sorry Benedict.
It's Beumont.
Beumont, thank you. All right, now today we are going to, I guess, not only have a conversation, but really, I like to think, connect with ourselves in a way perhaps we don't often do, yet is so readily available to us. That might sound a little bit cryptic, but I'm going to pass it over to Benedict and he can perhaps enlighten us a little bit more about his journey so far.
Hi, Mate, and thank you so much for inviting me onto your podcast. And yes, you're right. We're going to be tuning into our breath this evening, which is one of the almost the hidden ways, the hidden portals, the hidden keys that we can unlock vast potential within ourselves. And if it's okay, perhaps we can even start with a very short breath work together to bring us into presence. And if you're listening to this, I really invite you to just join in. Is that okay?
Absolutely.
And all we are going to do is just take some breaths together. We'll take 5, 10, 15 breaths and really feel, as we breathe, really connect with each other and ourselves. Let's do that. And we'll take 3 more. Thank you. Thank you, Mate.
Thank you very much.
And this is a technique I start almost every conversation I have now, or every meeting I have at least, just taking some breaths together. And just that slight pause and that connection with our breath, which connects us into ourselves and connects us into everyone else we are with. It is an enormously powerful tool of presence. Everything else just melts away. And finally, we are here properly together. And can you feel how that's changed now between us?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm not sure if you're familiar with New Zealand native Māori people, but when they meet, they do the hangi, and that's hongi, and that's really about. I mean, people talk about touching noses, but it's really about shared breath in that meeting. So it's interesting that that's manifesting itself in many ways across the world.
I didn't know that, and that's beautiful. Actually, the shared breath that we have together.
Yeah. So listen, I'm feeling really chill and relaxed now. But I guess in terms of breath work, I mean, you know, breathing is something we do all of our lives. It's the first thing we do when we come into this world, and it's probably going to be the last thing that we do as well. And yet, it's something that so many of us don't necessarily do well. What got you into, I guess, breath work as an area of interest?
Can you remember when you were at school, Mate, and there was probably 1 or 2 really annoying kids who always knew what they wanted to do with their lives?
Yes, it was a few years ago, but I do remember.
I always looked on those people with half of me in contempt and half of me in awe, and really, if I'm honest, the other half of me in jealousy, because I really wanted to have a kind of purpose in my life. I wanted to have a calling. I wanted my life to have meaning. And I have no idea how, you know, kids as young as 13, 14, 15 know what they want to do without any experience of the world, but I didn't. And so throughout my 20s and I suppose my 30s, I was looking for ways to give meaning into my life. In my 20s, I traveled a lot. I played in bands. I wanted to be a rock and roll star. I failed at that. I tried making films and that failed. I had a professional career, a very professional career in IT, and that fizzled out. And then in my early 30s, I looked in the mirror and I didn't like the person I was becoming, a sort of vain, selfish, arrogant young man. So I decided to change my life, and I made some big decisions. I started practicing yoga, pretty hardcore, and I became a Buddhist, and I meditated a lot. And for probably about 14 years maybe even, I was on a yoga mat doing Ashtanga, which is one of the more extreme forms of yoga, and getting up and doing meditation very early in the morning, quite hardcore, and studying Dharma at the weekends. And you know what? It was very difficult and it was very hard. But I felt like I was on the path to enlightenment. I also became a high school teacher at the same time because I wanted to give a little back to the world. I wanted to do something socially useful, and I wanted to give rather than just take. And as a profession, there isn't much more altruistic thing you can do than become a state school teacher. By the time I was in my late 30s, though, I had kind of burnt out for a second time. Teaching wasn't giving me what I wanted. I kind of reached a dead end with Buddhism. You know, I kind of got so far, and then it wasn't working for me anymore. And I was a pretty good yogi, but even that wasn't working. And then in 2014, I was in Bali, in a place called Ubud, which is one of the great spiritual centers of the world. There's a yoga teacher behind every tree. There's a shaman in every bush. There's a guru around every corner. You can't walk 3 paces without someone peddling enlightenment. And I met a guy there by kind of accident and chance. He was a bit older than me, and he looked like a guru. He had long white hair and flowing white linen clothes, and he had lots of beautiful young girls drifting around him. But he was a really nice guy, and I just was having a cup of tea with him, and I asked him what he did. He says, I'm a breathwork facilitator. And I thought, well, I've done a lot of breathwork in yoga and when I was doing meditation with Buddhism. And he said, well, do you want to come along, try it, be my guest at my next workshop at the weekend? And you know what it's like with drug pushers. The first hit is always free, and then after that, you're hooked. So in 2014, I went along to my first conscious breathwork session. And I can describe the workshop that we had, but within 5 seconds of doing breathwork with this guy who became my teacher, Anthony Abagnano of Alchemy of Breath, within 5 breaths of a conscious breathwork, I went to a deeper and more profound place of healing and transformation than I had ever been to before. More than any time that I've been on a yoga mat, for 12 years on a yoga mat, or 7 or 8 years in meditation, instantaneously. And I didn't have to sit in a lotus position, omming and making mudras for hours at an end. I didn't have to get up at 5 o'clock in the morning. I didn't have to have puritanical diets. I didn't have to have a very crazy physical regime. This was a gift to me just from breathing, something that we all have. And I had no idea that this was possible. So that was my that was my moment of, right, okay, this is when I found my purpose. Because 5 breaths after that, I knew that I would become a facilitator and I would start to take this out into the world as well.
Wow, that's so that took my breath away. No pun intended. But I think there's a lot I can take from that. But I feel, your journey, as it were, it brought you to that place, and not having had that previous experience, I mean, who's to say, but I do wonder whether that breathing would have had the same effect. So I'm almost thinking like your life up until that point basically prepared you for that moment.
Are you a sports fan,
I am.
Mate? And do you know how it always seems to be like the best teams? For me, it's soccer or football, like Manchester United. It's funny how the best teams somehow turn out to be the luckiest. The ones that work the hardest and have the highest skill and practice more than anyone else. Actually, it's funny how those teams seem to be the luckiest. And so you're right. I think everything that I'd done beforehand led me to that point for a purpose and has actually been of enormous benefit to me as I have taken my steps as a facilitator and bringing breathwork out into the world. It's a long path. It's a lifetime's path that led me to it and then is leading me on further.
And I guess, and the reason I sort of want to acknowledge that is, I mean, you talked about those people who at 14 or 16 or whatever, who seemingly had found what they wanted to do in life, and perhaps they're still in that space, perhaps not. But for some people, it can take some time and some experiences before they get to that place. And we can have a tendency to be in a rush to get to that point. But it's, I mean, there's that journey that we all have to experience and yeah, learn from before, I guess, we're ready to do what we want to do. And perhaps on some level, this scenario always was there at the back, and it just took this experience to basically bring it to the forefold, and you have the opportunity to take it on board and really work with it. So I guess in that moment, I mean, you talk about that experience and that connection, and you hadn't previously had that in any way, shape, or form previously.
No, I had not gone to that place.
Yeah.
That stillest, calmest, yet most energetic place. And I'll tell you, if you would like, and it may sound a bit crazy, but I'll tell you exactly what happened if you'd like.
Yeah, please.
So I'm from a very atheist country. I'm from the UK, you might guess from my accent. We're not a religious people, and I'm certainly not a religious, even though I was a Buddhist, it was never about that kind of belief in that spiritual side, or especially the religious side. I'm not religious at all, and I certainly don't have any affiliation or history with a Christian, the Christian religion. But when I went into that breathwork, I saw angels. I saw beings of light sort of dancing around in front of me. And for someone who doesn't believe in beings of light and who isn't crazy and woo-woo and lives in a very rational material state, how could I really explain that I felt this huge connection to this kind of energetic world outside of me? And that was what inspired me. But breathwork isn't always like that. I was gifted, that was my first breathwork experience, but a person next to me was having an experience probably like they were being disemboweled. They were screaming so loudly and in such deep emotional release. It was terrifying to be next to, and a very different experience to mine. And someone else on the other side of the room was sobbing as if they were crying all the tears in the world. And this is something, and when we came together at the end for our share, everyone had a very powerful experience, but every single one was different. And as I heard everyone's testimony as they went around and again, I was like, holy moly, what is going on here? How can something simple as breathing have such different and yet equally profound effects on everyone around me? So that is a small taste of what I experienced my first one, and more as I started to attend more breathworks, and as I started to step up, facilitate and lead breathworks, I saw the same thing happen every single time in a breathwork. Something profound and something miraculous happens, almost to everyone who participates. It's not something you have to believe in. It's not something I have to kind of try and sell to you. I'm not, I may sound like an evangelistic preacher, but it's based in total belief, because every single time I run a breath work, I see it happen in front of me.
Wow, I'm going to say I'm intrigued, and I mean, how many people would you have worked with over the last few years?
Oh, thousands now.
Wow.
I've breathed well over 1,000, 2,000 people. It's been online for the last year.
Yeah.
But before that, I was doing a lot in 2000, from 2017 really, when I started running Breathworks as a facilitator, through 2018 through 2019. A lot of people.
Yeah, and I guess, look, I mean, with recent events in terms of lockdown, a lot of things moving to online, has that, I guess, been an opportunity in some respects to spread the net a little bit further, or?
Well, I'd actually started working online before lockdown happened. I actually started just over a year ago.
Okay.
Really building towards working online, and I knew I was always going to make that transition. Because of my personal circumstances, I wasn't going to be able to run Breathworks as I had been before. So,
yeah, because sorry,
I'll tell you what, we've been talking about Breathwork, and we've talked about this amazing experience, and I could talk about Breathwork for this whole interview. But do you know what I think? Would you like to try a little bit of conscious breathwork to experience it for yourself?
Absolutely, I'm a willing participant.
Okay. And so normally I'll run a session that's 30 minutes in length, or 30 minutes to an hour. And we're just going to do a short, maybe 3 or 4 minute conscious breath work.
Okay.
Now, if you're listening at home, I would really encourage you to join in with this and try it out. Before we do this, before I explain how to do it, I'll just talk a little bit about the contraindications around this and some of the guidelines, because it is a really powerful breath work. It's a static breath work. We're not going to be moving around, but there are some effects that it can have. So if you're in early or unstable pregnancy, you should go very lightly. If you're schizophrenic or epileptic or on antipsychotic medication, again, probably best if you only do this through the nose. High or low blood pressure, glaucoma or eye issues, again, please go very gently with this. Just breathe through the nose. But it'll be fine for just 3 or 4 minutes to do this. Is that okay?
Yeah, and I'll just add, if you currently listen to this while driving, please pull over.
Oh yes, that's another thing. And I was going to explain this. We will do this breath work either sitting or lying down. Normally when I facilitate, people will be lying down, but in this situation it's going to be fine to be sitting up. So that's the kind of the background. I can explain why and how it is so powerful, but I'll do that afterwards. The technique we're using is called Conscious Connected Breathing, and I teach it in 4 steps. So let's just practice that breathing technique first. So the first one is our mouth position. We're going to open our mouth really wide, as if you're biting into an apple, kind of wide, like this. I think you can make wider, as if you're in a dentist, and that's it. Okay, now that's not usual mouth position. So give your jaw a wiggle. Okay, now your mouth may close slightly, but just try and be conscious, try and be aware of that. Next, we start taking full body breaths. So into every part of your body, your belly, your chest, your shoulders, almost as if you're using your hands and your legs to pull that breath inside. So let's start taking full body breaths. That's it. Now keep breathing like that. Now third, we keep breathing. Third, we keep our breath connected, which means no pauses at the top or the bottom. Just as one ends, the next starts. Like a wave coming in and coming out. Now finally, we really pull on the inhale, and then we just let go on the exhale. Okay, let's take 10 breaths together now as a practice. And one more. Now close your mouth, close your eyes. Just go inside for a minute. And just notice the changes. Just notice the physical changes. Because after even just 10 breaths, you will start to feel some different physical sensations. When you're ready, just come back. Open your eyes gently and slowly. Give yourself a shake. Okay. So what did you start to feel physically? What are the sensations that you started to feel with that?
So to be fair, I was feeling a little bit lightheaded.
Lightheaded, for sure,
yeah,
you will
yep.
feel. And that's why we don't do this driving,
Yes,
or dancing or anything else like
yes.
that.
Yeah. But like I don't want to say detached, but I felt lighter in myself.
You felt lighter in yourself.
So it was almost like there was some kind of release that took place. And I could feel the sensations through my arms and fingers. So there was kind of a little bit of tingle, but just I'm going to say more connection with my body,
Yeah,
as it were. And like if I kind of feel my shoulders now, I know I tend to hold a bit of tension in my shoulders, and it's not there at all. And I can still feel these sort of little tingles just on the back of the neck. And it almost feels like I've activated the nerve endings.
All of those things.
Yeah. So there's more of a sensory awareness of my body.
Definitely, definitely. This is a very visceral practice. What we teach is of the great wisdom in the body and how our breath really connects us with that. So all of those sensations that you have are quite common and usual in a conscious breath work. You may experience something called tetany, which is a locking up of muscles, which probably won't happen because we're only going to do this for sort of 3 or so minutes. You may also experience a dry throat. Again, nothing to be scared of. As soon as you change your breathing pattern, all of these sensations will fade and you'll come back to normal. You mentioned a feeling of release. Now, breath work like this really does work on a physical level, but it also works on an emotional level as well. If there are things that we are holding on to, if there are kind of pressures and knots and tangles of tension within us or stresses, this is a really amazing way to help unravel those knots, to release that tension and to let go of something that is holding us back. Are you ready to begin?
Absolutely.
So before we start, close your eyes and just feel how your body is being supported. And if you're breathing along with us at home, again, just sit there and feel your body. Feel how it is supported. Feel the air against your skin. And then start to become aware of your breath. Start to feel your chest rise and fall. As you inhale and exhale, feel your body gently move. And then become aware of the breath, the air coming in and out of your nostrils. And on an inhale, take your awareness inside to that still, quiet place within, where your highest, wisest, and kindest self lives. Place of wisdom, place of knowing. We're going to rest here for a moment or two and ask ourselves a question. If there was something that you needed to release, what would that be? And if you ask that question, if there was something that I needed to release, what would that be? And you will know what that is. Whether it's a physical tension in your body, whether it's an emotional block, whether it's a difficult relationship, whether it's a need that is not being met in your life. Maybe it's a traumatic memory. Maybe it's a bad relationship or someone that you can't let go of. So we'll wait for a moment or two more whilst you connect with what it is that you need to let go of. And if you don't know, that's still fine. Just breathe, and your body will know what it is it needs to release. So let's begin our breath work. Open your mouth wide, really wide. That's it. Start taking full body breaths. That's it. Keeping your breath connected with no pauses on the inhale or the exhale. Really pulling on the inhale and then letting go on the exhale. And I'm going to play some music in the background. Now find your own rhythm. Find your own depth. Find your own pace. Let the breath be your guide. Let it flood every part of your body. What is it that you need to release? Feel it in your body. Where is it in your body? Is there a color or a sensation associated with it? Let yourself feel it fully now. For the 3 minutes of this breath work, breathe and feel. Because if we let ourselves feel it fully, then maybe we can let it go. We have 2 more minutes of this breath work. So breathe fully. Breathe deeply. Keep your mouth wide. Keep your breath full. What would it feel like if you let this go? How would it feel different in your body? As you breathe in, let yourself feel that. How would you be different? As you breathe Know that this is possible. We'll take a few more breaths now. And in our last breaths, let go. Feel your body releasing. And then when you're ready, close your mouth. Breathe through your nose. We'll have a moment or two of silence, just as you start to integrate. And so just start gently to move your body, your fingers and toes, and your wrists. Start to move your shoulders. Feel yourself coming back into your body. How good it feels. Maybe stretch your arms out and up. And then gently bring your hands together in front of you and rub them. Rub them really hard until they get hot. If it's burning, and then place your palms over your eyes and feel that warmth. Gently spread your fingers and blink your eyes open. And bring your hands down. Welcome back into the room. Welcome back, Mate. And if you're listening at home, welcome back as well. Even for this short breath work, this is an enormous privilege to hold this space and to see people step up and breathe and feel. So thank you, Mate. I could see that you were breathing. I could see that you were feeling there. Thank you for this small breath work and the gift you have given yourself.
Awesome. Thank you, Benedict, for the opportunity. Like it feels a little bit surreal. I'm not going to stand up anytime soon. That was,
as long as you need.
That was a really interesting experience, I guess, in a lot of ways. Obviously, being the first time and not having any expectation as to what would occur, but just being open to it. And there was a moment there where I'm wondering what this looks like on camera, but then it was just kind of letting it go and just going with it. And I found I got into a nice rhythm with the breathing, and there was this, I'm going to say, spasm or tension or knot that was kind of, I felt like was coming out from the upper abdomen or stomach area. and I could feel initially a tingle through my legs, and then I felt this real groundedness. And we hold a lot of, I mentioned the tension in the shoulders, but also in the jaw, and like now it just feels really free, that I could probably take the biggest bite of an apple that I've ever taken. So I mean, thank you so much for allowing me to experience that during the session, because I have a lot of conversations with people, and they're great conversations, and we often talk about different people's experience, and I think on some level people can resonate with that, but to actually experience things firsthand is by far the most powerful, and I would argue the most effective way to experience anything in life, to be fair.
Yeah.
So for those that perhaps didn't participate first time round, I would strongly suggest having another listen and giving it a go in an environment perhaps that you're more comfortable in doing so, because having just gone through it, I can really appreciate the benefit of it. So thank you again.
Thank you. And you noticed that you felt tension dissolving away in your body. And often we know what it is, the tension and the restrictions that we hold in ourselves, but sometimes we don't. And we don't need to know what they are, because our bodies are wiser than we possibly can imagine. And our bodies know what they need to do to heal and transform. The problem is, most of the time, we are not letting our bodies do that. We're worrying about money or relationships or children, or we're distracting ourselves with, I don't know, Game of Thrones, or going down the pub, or football, or whatever it is. But when we breathe, when we truly consciously breathe, we give ourselves space and time for our bodies to do what they need, but more importantly, we give our body the energy. Because when we breathe like this, it is like prana or life force coming into our body, and our bodies do something with that energy. For every single person, it's different every single time, because at different points in our lives, we need something different. So it may be seeing angels like I was gifted on my first experience, but it may be just a lessening or an easing of tension in our abdomen or in our shoulders, or a traumatic memory may be released. And that is why it's so powerful, and I find it so relevant to everyone, because whatever it is that you need, your body knows what it needs, and the breath is our way of giving our bodies the energy that they need to heal and transform.
That's beautiful. And look, I mean, I touched on, the importance of breathing in a lot of ways to life, and it's something that we take for granted so often. And I mean, there are people out there who even reverse breathe. So there's just, and it's such a simple thing that everyone does and everyone can get benefit from. So the universal benefits of what you're doing is just huge. And I mean, you talk about working with thousands of people over the last couple of years, and I can truly appreciate how that would work, because everyone can connect with their breath and themselves through that process. So well done to you for not only going on that journey yourself, but offering it to others.
It's actually a really easy journey as a facilitator, because it's not like I'm doing something. It's not, I'm not healing you. I'm not like, casting magic spells. All I am doing is making a space and giving you a tool. And it's you. It's every single person who is doing this for themselves. And so breathwork for me is it's a discipline of empowerment. It's giving people the skills and the experience that they, and the wisdom. It's connecting people to the wisdom that they already have inside of themselves. So as to facilitate this in many respects, all I have to do is just get out of the way and let everyone's own process happen.
And like, I would almost consider you a facilitator of space in a sense, and by giving people that space, you allow them to be true to themselves, but to truly breathe, because it's so easy to get caught up with the busyness of life, and there's all those external things going on in the world, and distractions and thoughts of the mind and whatnot. But it's, I don't want to say it's an illusion, but it's I mean, it's just a perception of reality in essence. And when we can connect with ourselves and the senses, that's into this present moment. I mean, that's really all we have.
All we have.
And yet we overcomplicate it, and we have worry and fear and anxiety and all these troubles of the mind. And yeah, we can try and suppress it or distract ourselves with various external factors, but until we address that underlying issue, nothing fundamentally changes.
Mm-hmm.
If someone, I guess, was interested in exploring this a little bit more, or perhaps becoming a facilitator themselves, what would be the best way to reach out to yourself?
Well, it's funny that you should mention making space. That's essentially what I do, and that's actually the name of my website, pretty much. MakeSomeBreathingSpace.com. And breathing space is what I create. And so I'm pretty easy to find online, breathing space, or MakeSomeBreathingSpace.com. And there's a number of things that I do. So every week I run a conscious breathwork at 8:30 p.m. UK time, which I know is going to be probably very early in the morning for people in New Zealand. But I run a conscious breathwork, which is a free workshop that everyone can come along to for an hour and do a 30-minute conscious breathe. It's not always me leading it, but I'm always there hosting it. So some of my other breathing space facilitators often lead that space. But if you're just generally interested in breathwork, if you look on my website, I've got various courses on there that some are free and the deeper ones are, paid as well. But we've just done some conscious breathing, but there are dozens and dozens, maybe even hundreds of different breath techniques. Breathwork for wellness, for respiratory fitness, for physical fitness. There's breathwork to bring calm and peace, breathwork for serenity. There's breathwork to activate and to connect. There's breathwork for almost any kind of situation that you want. There is almost certainly a breathwork practice for it. So I offer a number of courses, an introductory free course, and then the deeper foundation level course if you wish to go deeper and have a more in-depth experience of breathwork and learn some of the more powerful techniques. Now, I'm really passionate about what I do, but there are lots and lots of breathwork facilitators out there. There's so many. My teacher, Anthony from Alchemy of Breath, they run free workshops every Sunday. If there's other aspects of breathwork, shamanic breathwork, trauma-released breathwork. So there's so many different types of breathwork that you can do. If you just literally Google breathwork or conscious breathwork, you'll have all sorts pop up that you can explore and go on an amazing, amazing adventure. A life-changing adventure, if I'm honest. It was life-changing for me, but even more, it's life-changing for everyone else around you as well, because as you start to bring stillness, clarity, strength, sovereignty, power, connection into your life, that will ripple out to the people around you. And the whole world starts to benefit on this. And I'm not shy of being ambitious, because I feel the world is in a place that it needs healing and transformation. And I feel that breathwork is one of the easiest, most instantaneous, and let's face it, free ways that we can do this.
Yeah.
So I'm on a mission to try and get as many people to breathe as possible. And whether that's with me or another facilitator, it doesn't matter. This is the easiest and quickest way for personal growth, healing, and transformation. I call it, it's like meditation for people who can't meditate. It's like plant medicine for those who don't drugs. And it's like therapy for those who don't talk about, who want to talk about their problems. It is the most astonishing tool because it's almost instantaneous and it's just about free. It's something we have all got access to every single moment of our lives.
That's me question my purpose. No, not at all. No, I'm just wondering if I got to the right workspace. Interesting, really interesting, and really like, yeah, I can resonate with what you've said 100%. Because, like you say, there's a lot of stuff happening out there that's created through a disconnect, I guess. Fundamentally with ourselves, and then it extends to the external world. And you know, there's that, I forget who said it, but it's that classic, you know, I used to think I was smart and I could change the world, and now I'm wise and I'm changing myself. I think it might have been Rumi, actually.
Yeah.
And it's that whole idea that, you know, the change starts with you, and it was only through you going through that experience that you could then express that to others and share that and such like, and that has that effect. And I mean, you talked about the thousands that you've worked with. How many people roughly would you say have become facilitators as a result of that process?
I am halfway through my second training now, so I've got about 40 people who have trained to be with facilitators with me.
Yeah, and then you imagine those people going out and all the people that they work with and so far and so forth, and you know, it compounds, and the more people who experience it and get on board, the more it'll grow, and the benefits. It's really great to see, and I would like to think that podcasts is another way to kind of share that message, and people, I would like to think, of had some experience or taste of it, that it's enough for them to explore it a little bit further. Wow. Listen, Benedict, I want to thank you again for taking the time and creating the space for myself and those listening to this. Is there anything that you would like to leave the audience with before we close today?
That's a great question to end on. What would I like to leave with? I would like to give everyone some hope. I would like to give everyone the hope that things can be different. Wherever you are, and whatever it is that you want to change in your life, it is possible. Sometimes it can be as simple as taking a breath.
Thank you, Benedict.
Thank you, Mate. This has been a delightful interview to be with you. And before we, perhaps as we close, maybe we could just take a few breaths together to close it out as we began.